My husband didn't know marriage was over when he kissed me goodbye. He smiled and told me he'd be working late. When a liar believes you trust him,
He becomes careless. My name is Claire Bennett. I was 38 years old, married for 14 years, and living in a beautiful house outside Chicago that suddenly felt like a stage set. By sunset, I would discover that my husband had betrayed more than my heart. By the end of the month, he would understand that the quiet wife he underestimated had been the only person standing between him and prison. It began the night before, in the rain. I had stopped at Daniel's dry cleaner on my way home because he had forgotten his charcoal coat. The woman behind the counter handed it to me in a clear plastic sleeve. I carried it through the cold parking lot, put it across the back seat, and drove home. Daniel was upstairs taking a shower when I removed the plastic. Something crackled inside the inner pocket. I expected a business card. Instead, I found a receipt from the Ashford Hotel in downtown Chicago. 1 room, 2 nights, champagne, dinner for 2. The dates were from the previous week, when Daniel had supposedly attended a financial conference in Milwaukee. For several seconds, I could hear nothing except rain tapping the kitchen windows. Then I heard him coming downstairs. I folded the receipt and slipped it into my own pocket. Daniel entered the kitchen wearing gray sweatpants, his hair still wet. He kissed my cheek and asked what smelled good. Pot roast, I said. My voice sounded normal. That surprised me. He opened the refrigerator and complained about a client. I watched him talk. I studied the small lines beside his eyes, the familiar way he leaned against the counter, and the wedding band I had chosen 14 years earlier. I wondered how many lies could fit inside one ordinary face. At dinner, he told me he had another late meeting Friday. That was when I understood the receipt was not evidence of something finished. It was an invitation to follow him. The next morning, after he left, I called my office and said I was sick. I worked as a forensic bookkeeper for a regional insurance company. Numbers were my profession. Patterns were my instinct. Daniel knew that, but somewhere during our marriage, he had decided my skills existed only between 9 and 5. I opened our household accounts. Nothing looked strange at first. Daniel's salary entered on schedule. The mortgage, utilities, and credit cards were paid. But when I checked the activity on our home equity line, I saw 3 withdrawals totaling $90,000. Each transfer had been reversed within 48 hours. That might have looked harmless to most people. To me, it looked like testing. Someone had been checking how quickly money could move without triggering a warning. I printed the records and placed them in a folder. Then I searched Daniel's desk. His bottom drawer was locked. The key was not on his ring. So I used the spare from the garage cabinet. Daniel had forgotten that I was the person who organized our move into the house. Inside the drawer were bank statements for an account I had never seen. The account belonged to an investment company called North Lake Strategic Holdings. Daniel was listed as an authorized signer. So was a woman named Vanessa Cole. There were deposits from 6 elderly clients of Daniel's firm. The amounts ranged from $40,000 to almost $300,000. 2 days after each deposit, most of the money moved into another account. At the bottom of the drawer, I found a photograph. Daniel stood on the deck of a lake house beside a tall blonde woman in a red coat. His arm was around her waist. On the back, someone had written, "Soon, all of this will be ours." I did not cry. Not then. I photographed every page, returned everything exactly as I had found it, and drove downtown before Daniel's workday ended. The Ashford Hotel had a quiet lobby filled with dark wood and brass lamps. I sat behind a newspaper I never read. At 6:15, Daniel walked through the revolving door. Vanessa Cole arrived 3 minutes later. I recognized her from the photograph. She wore the same red coat. Daniel kissed her with the confidence of a man who had done it many times. Pain moved through me, sharp and cold. For one dangerous second, I wanted to cross the lobby and strike him. Instead, I raised my phone behind the newspaper and took 3 pictures. They entered the bar. I sat close enough to hear pieces of their conversation. Vanessa said, "The transfer happens Wednesday." Daniel replied, "After that, Claire becomes irrelevant." Vanessa laughed. "She already is." My hands began to shake. I pressed them between my knees. Then Daniel said something that changed everything. "Once she signs the refinance documents, the house covers the last gap. I left before they saw me." In the parking garage, I sat behind the wheel and finally cried. I cried for the man I had loved, for the years I had defended him, and for the future I had thought we shared. But grief did not stay grief for long. It hardened into a tension. Daniel was not simply planning to leave me. He intended to use our home to complete a financial crime, then abandon me with the debt. When I returned home, I made pasta and listened to music. Daniel came in at 10:45 smelling faintly of hotel soap. "Long meeting?" I asked. "Brutal," he said. "Did it go well?" He loosened his tie. I looked directly at him and smiled. "Good." That night, he slept beside me while I stared into the darkness and designed the first honest plan our marriage had seen in years. The next morning, I called my college friend, Maya Torres. Maya was an attorney who specialized in financial fraud. I had not spoken to her in months, but when she heard my voice, she told me to come immediately. Her office overlooked the Chicago River. I showed her the receipt, photographs, and account records. She read everything twice. "Do not confront him," she said. I wasn't planning to. Good. Because this is bigger than an affair. North Lake appears to be receiving client funds under false pretenses. If Daniel is moving money, federal investigators may already be watching. And our house. Do not sign anything. Quietly protect the accounts you legally control. Copy every document you can access, but do not break passwords or remove originals. We need clean evidence. She gave me the name of Special Agent Ethan Ward at the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. I met him Monday in a federal building cafeteria. He was calm, careful, and impossible to read. He asked how I obtained each document. He asked whether Daniel had ever used my computer, identity, or electronic signature. Then he placed one bank statement on the table. "We know about Northlake," he said. My stomach tightened. One of the investors died after losing her retirement savings. Her daughter filed a complaint. We have suspicions, but not enough to prove who controls the transfers. Your information may change that. What do you need from me? For now, observe. If he asks you to sign documents, contact us first. And Mrs. Bennett, do not underestimate the risk. People behave unpredictably when large amounts of money are involved. I left the building feeling as if I had stepped into someone else's life. That evening, Daniel brought home flowers. Yellow roses. My favorite. He poured wine and told me he wanted us to make a fresh start. Then he placed a folder on the kitchen island. "Interest rates may rise again," he said. "I think we should refinance now. It would free up cash for renovations." Inside were forms authorizing a $400,000 loan against our house. My name was already typed beneath a signature line. "That's a lot of money," I said. "It is just flexibility. We don't have to use it." He touched my hand. His expression was warm and patient. I remembered how safe that expression once made me feel. I read everything first. For half a second, annoyance flashed across his face. Then he smiled. "Of course." I contacted Agent Ward from the bathroom. He told me to delay until Wednesday and asked whether I would be willing to wear a recording device. I said yes before fear could answer for me. Tuesday morning. I visited one of the names on the North Lake statements. Arthur Bell, a 74-year-old retired teacher living in Evanston. I told him I was reviewing records connected to Daniel's company. I did not mention the investigation. Arthur invited me inside. His wife had died 2 years earlier. Daniel had helped him manage the life insurance payment. He said North Lake was protected. Arthur told me. Better than a bank account. He said you had invested too. I felt the room tilt. He used my name. He said his wife checked every number personally. That was why I trusted him. Arthur had invested $210,000. It was nearly everything he had. When I returned to my car, I gripped the steering wheel until my hands hurt. Daniel had not merely hidden his crimes from me. He had used my reputation to sell them. That was the moment my heartbreak became anger. I called Agent Ward and told him everything. He asked me not to contact any more clients. The investigation had to remain controlled. That night, Daniel watched a basketball game while I cooked. He joked about a referee. I stood at the stove and wondered how a person could ruin strangers, steal his wife's name, and still complain about a foul call as if he were ordinary. After he fell asleep, I checked the hall closet. His overnight bag was packed. Inside were 2 passports, $8,000 in cash, and a printed itinerary for a flight to Lisbon on Thursday evening. There was only one passenger name: Daniel Bennett. Vanessa was not going with him. That detail bothered me. I photographed the itinerary and sent it to Agent Ward. At 7 the next morning, Vanessa called my cell phone. "We need to meet," she said. Her voice was shaking. "Why would I meet you?" There was a long silence. "Because Daniel is planning to destroy both of us." We met at a crowded coffee shop near Union Station. Vanessa looked nothing like the confident woman from the hotel. Her hair was pulled back carelessly. There were dark circles beneath her eyes. "I know you followed us," she said. "How?" "The bartender noticed you taking pictures. He told Daniel after you left. Daniel thinks you were a private investigator. I recognized you." I kept my face still. "Why call me?" She slid a flash drive across the table. "Because he is leaving tomorrow. Alone." I did not touch it. Vanessa explained that she had met Daniel 3 years earlier at his firm. She believed North Lake was a legal private investment vehicle. Daniel told her he was separated and promised they would build a life together. "I handled client communication," she said. "He controlled the accounts. Last night. Then I found draft emails blaming every transfer on me." "You expect sympathy." Her eyes filled with tears. "No. I knew about you for the last year. I chose to believe him. I deserve whatever happens because of that. But I did not know he was stealing until 6 months ago. He told me he would fix it. I was afraid to go to the police because my name was everywhere." "What is on the drive?" "Copies of his private ledger, voice messages, and instructions for Wednesday's transfer. He plans to move $1.8 million to an offshore account. Use your refinance money to cover the client accounts temporarily and leave before anyone notices." "Why should I trust you?" "You shouldn't. Give it to the FBI." I stared at her. Part of me hated her. Another part recognized the shape of Daniel's manipulation. He had told each of us a different story and placed us on opposite sides so we would never compare notes. Did he ever love either of us? I asked. Vanessa looked toward the window. "I don't think he understands that word." Agent Ward collected the drive 20 minutes later. By noon, he confirmed it contained useful evidence. But there was a problem. Before he left, he asked me to identify a list of company names from Daniel's ledger. Most meant nothing to me, but one made my chest tighten: Bennett Family Restoration. That was the name of the small business my father had owned before he died. The company had been closed for 11 years. Daniel had handled the final paperwork because I was grieving and trusted him. According to the ledger, Bennett Family Restoration was still alive on paper. It had received more than $600,000 from Northlake over 3 years. I never authorized this, I said. Agent Ward turned the laptop toward me. The incorporation documents carried my electronic signature. It looked real. Daniel had copied it from our old tax return. The registered address was a private mailbox in Oak Park. I remembered Daniel stopping there twice during weekend errands. He had told me he was returning equipment to a client. My father's name had been clean. He had spent 32 years repairing homes after fires and storms. He sometimes accepted payment in installments because he could not bear to leave a family without a roof. Daniel had taken that name and turned it into a drain for stolen money. Can this make me look responsible? I asked. It was designed to, Ward said. If the scheme collapsed, investigators would find a company connected to you receiving the funds. I understood then why Daniel had kept me close. Even after falling in love with Vanessa, or pretending to, I was not just a wife he planned to discard. I was his exit route. My profession made the story even better. A forensic bookkeeper secretly operating a shell company sounded believable enough to create doubt. Ward asked permission to examine my work computer and personal devices. I agreed immediately. Agents copied years of emails and records. I spent 6 hours answering questions while strangers searched for crimes committed in my name. By evening, exhaustion had replaced fear. Maya drove me home. In the driveway, she turned off the engine but did not unlock the doors. You cannot stay alone tonight, she said. If I suddenly leave, Daniel will know. Claire, he created a company in your name. We do not know what else he has done. That is exactly why I have to act normal for one more night. She stared at me for a long time. Then she made me promise to keep my phone charged and text her every hour. Inside, Daniel was cooking steaks. He kissed me and said he had missed me. I went upstairs, closed the bathroom door, and vomited. At dinner, he asked about my day. I told him I had attended a long budget meeting. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You work too hard, he said. The cruelty of that kindness nearly broke my control. After dinner, he opened an old bottle of bourbon that had belonged to my father. To family, Daniel said. I lifted my glass but did not drink. While he showered, I went into the basement and found the storage box containing my father's business files. Several folders were missing. In their place was a sealed envelope addressed to me in Daniel's handwriting. Inside was a typed confession. It said I had created Northlake to recover money lost through unauthorized trades. It claimed Daniel discovered the fraud and tried to stop me. At the bottom was a copy of my signature. For a moment, the basement walls seemed to close around me. He had prepared the story of my guilt in advance. I photographed the confession, then noticed something tucked beneath it, a copy of my passport, and a one-way airline reservation to Montreal for Wednesday night. The reservation was in my name. Daniel planned to make it appear that I had stolen the money and fled the country. His Thursday flight to Lisbon would look like a frightened husband following his criminal wife, or escaping from her. I sent the photographs to Ward. His reply came seconds later. Leave the house now. I heard a floorboard creak behind me. Daniel stood at the basement stairs. What are you doing down here? He asked. I held an old invoice in front of the envelope. Looking for the warranty on the furnace. It made a strange noise. He watched me without blinking. I'll call someone tomorrow. Thank you. He walked down 2 steps, then stopped. You know I take care of you, right? My phone felt heavy in my pocket. Of course, I said. That answer satisfied him. He returned upstairs, I waited 5 minutes, replaced the envelope, and left through the side door. I told Daniel I needed medicine for a headache. Instead, I drove to Maya's office, where Agent Ward was waiting. The forged confession changed the investigation. It showed planning, identity theft, and an effort to obstruct any future inquiry. But Ward still wanted the final transfer connected directly to Daniel. A defense attorney could claim Vanessa or another employee had created the ledger. Daniel's own words would close that door. I did not return home until nearly midnight. Daniel was asleep on the couch. The television light moved across his face. For one strange moment, he looked like the young man I had married. I remembered meeting him at a friend's birthday party. He had made me laugh so hard that soda came out of my nose. I remembered our first apartment with the broken heater, our cheap wedding, and the night my father died, when Daniel held me until morning. I wondered whether those memories had been false. Later, Maya told me something that helped. A person can be kind in one moment and cruel in another. The kindness does not erase the cruelty. And the cruelty does not mean every happy memory was imaginary. It only means that memories cannot be used as evidence that someone is safe today. I covered Daniel with a blanket. Then I went upstairs and prepared to bring him down. The ledger could have been created later, he said. The voice messages help. But we still need proof that Daniel personally orders the final transfer. He expects me to sign tonight. Then tonight is our opportunity. The plan was simple to describe and terrifying to perform. I would wear a small recording device beneath my blouse. I would tell Daniel I had signed the refinance forms. Agent Ward's team would monitor from a van 2 streets away. Vanessa, working with investigators, would tell Daniel that the offshore account was ready. We needed him to explain enough of the plan in his own words. If I felt unsafe, I would say, I left the oven on. At 6:30, Daniel came home carrying champagne. He saw the folder on the dining table and smiled. You signed. Every page, I said. That was not true. Agent Ward had supplied copies marked in a way that looked complete but had no legal force. Daniel opened the bottle. His hand shook slightly as he poured. To new beginnings, he said. Tell me what we're beginning, he laughed. A renovation. I mean the truth. His smile faded. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I placed the hotel receipt beside his glass. I know about Vanessa, I said. I know about North Lake. I know about Lisbon. Daniel's face emptied of expression. How long? He asked. Long enough. He walked to the window and looked outside. I wondered whether he could see the surveillance van. You don't understand what you found, he said. Then explain it. He turned slowly. North Lake was supposed to be temporary. I had a bad quarter. One client wanted guaranteed returns, so I covered them with money from another account. Then the market moved against me. Every correction created another gap. You stole from Arthur Bell. I borrowed. You used my name. Because people trust you. The casual way he said it hurt more than shouting would have. And the refinance. It gives me time to restore everything. Before you fly to Lisbon alone. His eyes sharpened. Who told you about the flight? Vanessa. I said nothing. He picked up his phone and called her. She did not answer. Daniel began pacing. She thinks she can blame me. She signed the client letters. She opened the holding accounts. Under your instructions. Of course, under my instructions. She couldn't organize a grocery list without me. There it was. Clear. Arrogant recorded. I pushed further. And the $1.8 million. He stopped. What did she tell you? That you ordered the final transfer. She already moved it. Not yet. Daniel grabbed his coat. Where are you going? To fix this. Be running. He turned toward me with a look I had never seen before. Give me your phone. No. He crossed the room and seized my wrist. Pain shot up my arm. I looked into the face of the man I had shared a bed with for 14 years and realized I no longer knew him at all. "I left the oven on," I said. Daniel froze. He understood immediately. His eyes dropped toward my blouse. He released my wrist, then reached for the recording device. The front door burst open. Federal agents entered shouting commands. Daniel tried to run through the kitchen, but 2 agents stopped him before he reached the garage. They forced him to the floor and placed him in handcuffs. He twisted his head toward me. "Claire, tell them this is a misunderstanding." Those were the first honest words of our marriage's final minute. He truly did not understand why I was not saving him. "I spent 14 years cleaning up your mistakes," I said. "I'm done." They took him away. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. The following morning, Agent Ward called. The offshore transfer had not occurred. The receiving account had been frozen. Most of the missing client money could potentially be recovered through accounts and property Daniel controlled. Then he told me something worse. Investigators had found a life insurance policy on me worth $2 million. Daniel had purchased it 11 months earlier. The beneficiary was a trust controlled by North Lake. 2 weeks before his arrest, he had searched online for information about carbon monoxide exposure and accidental deaths in attached garages. I sat down on the kitchen floor. Memories returned with new meaning. The garage door sensor that had suddenly stopped working. Daniel insisting I warm the car inside during a bitter morning. The headaches I had experienced twice that winter. A service technician had later found a loose exhaust connection. I had assumed it was bad luck. Agent Ward did not tell me Daniel had tried to kill me. He said the evidence was being investigated, but I understood. My signature on the refinance was not his only plan for covering the gap. For the first time since finding the receipt, I was not angry. I was afraid. I changed the locks even though Daniel was in federal custody. I stayed with Maya for several nights. I woke from dreams in which I heard the garage door closing. Vanessa entered a cooperation agreement. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy and fraud, but her testimony helped identify every client and locate additional funds. I did not forgive her. Forgiveness was not a debt I owed. Still, I believed she had finally chosen the truth when lying would have been easier. Daniel refused every plea offer. He claimed Vanessa designed the scheme and manipulated him. He claimed I fabricated evidence because I was jealous. He told his attorney that I had always been unstable. That last lie freed something inside me. The months before trial were harder than I expected. Newspapers printed photographs of our house. Reporters called me, the accountant wife, and asked whether I had helped Daniel hide the money. Anonymous strangers sent messages saying I must have known. One envelope contained a photograph of me leaving Maya's office with the word THIF written across my face. Agent Ward traced it to the brother of one of Daniel's former employees. The man believed Daniel had been framed. No charges were filed, but a protective order stopped the messages. I took leave from work. Although my employer said they believed me, an internal review was required because my name appeared on the shell company. Investigators examined every case I had handled for 10 years. For 8 weeks. I did not know whether I would have a career when the trial ended. That uncertainty was part of Daniel's revenge. Even from a cell, the false records he created continued doing damage. Maya helped me separate our finances. We discovered Daniel had opened 3 credit cards using my information and had borrowed against a retirement account. The fraud unit removed most of the debt, but each correction required forms, calls, and explanations. I spent hours proving that I was myself and that the person wearing my husband's face had not been acting for me. One afternoon, Arthur Bell called. I heard what people are saying, he told me. I want you to know I don't believe it. You barely know me. I know who came to my house looking frightened because she thought I had been hurt. Daniel never looked frightened for anyone except himself. His words arrived on a day when I badly needed them. Arthur began contacting other victims through the prosecutor's office. He organized a weekly support meeting at a church hall. At first, I refused to attend because I felt responsible. Maya finally convinced me to go. 12 people sat in a circle. Some were angry with Daniel. Some were angry with themselves. One woman named Louise had postponed medical treatment because her savings disappeared. A married couple had sold their home and moved in with their son. When it was my turn to speak, I apologized. Arthur interrupted me. No, he said. You brought the evidence. You don't carry his crime. Louise nodded. He counted on all of us being too ashamed to talk. We don't help him by blaming the person who stopped him. I cried in front of strangers that night. It was the first time my tears felt cleansing instead of humiliating. The support group taught me what Daniel had understood and exploited. Intelligent people can be deceived when trust is used as a weapon. Fraud does not work because victims are foolish. It works because criminals study the decent habits that hold society together: politeness, loyalty, hope, and turn those habits against people. By the time the trial began, I no longer entered the courtroom only for myself. I carried 12 voices with me. For years, Daniel had made small corrections to my reality. If I remembered a promise he had broken, he said I misunderstood. If I noticed money missing, he said I worried too much. If I challenged him, he called me emotional. His lies had not begun with Vanessa or North Lake. They had begun with the idea that my confidence was something he could slowly spend. At trial, I took the witness stand. Daniel sat beside his attorneys in a dark suit. He looked thinner, but still polished. When I entered, he gave me the familiar soft smile he used whenever he wanted me to doubt myself. It no longer worked. The prosecutor asked about the receipt, the hidden accounts, Arthur Bell, and the refinance documents. The recording played through the courtroom speakers. Daniel's voice filled the room. Of course, under my instructions. I watched the jurors listen. His attorney suggested I had stayed quiet because I wanted revenge. Did you want to punish your husband for his affair? He asked. I wanted to stop him from stealing people's life savings. I said. But you hated him. I looked at Daniel. No. For a long time, I loved a person who never existed. By the time I learned the truth, there was no one left to hate. The courtroom became completely silent. Arthur Bell testified after me. So did the daughter of the woman who had died believing her retirement money was gone forever. Vanessa testified for 2 days. Bank specialists mapped the transfers. A mechanic explained how the exhaust connection on my car could not have loosened in the way Daniel claimed. The prosecution did not charge him with attempted murder because they could not prove exactly what he had done. But the insurance policy and search history were admitted as evidence of motive in the financial case. After 3 weeks, the jury returned guilty verdicts on fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, identity theft, and witness intimidation. Daniel received 22 years in federal prison. The judge ordered the sale of his lake house, investment properties, luxury car, and hidden accounts. The recovered money did not make every victim whole, but it returned most of Arthur's savings and substantial amounts to the others. Our house was complicated. Daniel had tried to use it as part of the scheme. But because I had not signed the real documents, because my income had paid much of the mortgage, Maya negotiated a settlement that allowed me to keep it. I sold it anyway. Some places remember too much. I moved into a smaller home near the lake, with wide windows and no attached garage. I started a nonprofit service that reviewed investment documents for seniors before they signed. Arthur became our first volunteer. He made terrible coffee and told the same 3 jokes every Tuesday. But people trusted him because he understood what shame could do to a victim. I should have known better, clients often said. Arthur always answered, the thief is the one who should have known better. 1 year after the trial, I received a letter from Daniel. It was 6 pages long. He apologized for mistakes. He blamed pressure, Vanessa, the market, his father, and eventually me. Near the end, he wrote that if I had supported him, instead of contacting the FBI, he could have repaired everything. The old Claire might have answered. She might have explained each contradiction, hoping the right words would finally make him see her. I placed the letter in my fireplace and watched it burn. That evening, I walked along Lake Michigan. The wind was cold, but the sky was clear. Chicago's lights trembled across the water behind me. I thought about the hotel receipt. For months, I had considered it the object that destroyed my marriage. In truth, it had saved my life. It led me to the hotel, the accounts, the victims, and finally the truth. Revenge was not watching Daniel lose his freedom. It was not taking his house or seeing his name in the newspaper. My revenge was waking each morning without asking permission to trust myself. It was Arthur opening a statement and seeing his savings restored. It was every client who walked into our office frightened and left understanding the numbers in front of them. It was building something honest from the ruins of Daniel's lies. People sometimes ask whether I regret not confronting him the first night. I do not. Anger would have given him a warning. Silence gave me the truth. Daniel believed quiet meant weak. He believed love had made me blind. He believed I was simply the woman who cooked dinner, signed papers, and cleaned up whatever he broke. He was wrong about all of it. I had not been blind. I had been looking at him through trust. Once he shattered that trust, I saw everything. And the receipt he never meant me to find did not mark the end of my life. It was the first piece of evidence that led me back to it.